Aloha! This CME activity is jointly provided by the Queens Medical Center and UH-JABSOM Department of Geriatric Medicine. We offer free continuing education for this series. In order to receive a CME or CEU, participants must complete the online evaluation at the end of the webinar. Your comments are very important to the planning committee and will be used to plan future programs. You can now check on your CME credits online. Go to www.queens.org and type CME in the search tool. Click on My CME Transcript, then sign in to generate your transcript. If you have any questions about accessing your CME, please email cme@queens.org. About ECHO. We want to remind everyone that this is an ECHO webinar, which means that this session serves as a forum for mutual teaching and learning from experts and from each of us on the front lines. As the ECHO motto goes, all teach, all learn. So it will take all of you to create this community of learning. In the spirit of aloha, we encourage you to turn on your cameras to help us build a community of learning. Feel free to eat and drink during this ECHO session. Good nutrition is key to a healthy lifestyle. A little bit about our format. After a short lecture from our experts, we will share expertise from the rest of the team and then open the time up for case discussions. We invite you to share any geriatric cases. It may even be on a topic not related to today's topic. We only ask that you keep it HIPAA compliant case for discussion. That means please do not share patient's name, birthday, address, and so on. We learn best from our patients. They are the best teachers. Our interdisciplinary team is here as well, and we are all willing to teach and share our collective wisdom with you. Most of you already know me. I am Wynette Gaylord, President of Alliance of Residential Care Administrators, ARCA. We have Maribel Tan, President of Foster Family Homes Association, Elsa Talavera, President and CEO of Island Case Management, All Island Case Management Corporation, Kira McCoy, Health Coordinator Lead at Aloha Care, Leila Ventar, Health Coordination Manager from United Healthcare, Kauai County, and Dr. Ritabel Fernandez from University of Hawaii. We are in the third month of our three-part series on what matters. If you're interested in viewing any of those lectures and handouts, you can find them on our website. Unfortunately, we cannot offer certificates of attendance for videos you have viewed. You must participate in our education live. The title of today's webinar is Hospice Chaplain Duties and Responsibilities. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our speaker, Chaplain Patrick Rooney. Chaplain Rooney has been a minister for 25 years, ordained as a Pentecostal minister, and has been a global chaplain with the Four Square Gospel Church for 12 years, and a hospice chaplain with Islands Hospice for the past 7 years. During and after the Maui wildfires, Chaplain Patrick spent much time on Maui, providing care for not only island hospice patients and their families, but also offering comfort and peace to the residents of the Valley Isle. Chaplain, take it away.
Thank you, Wynette, very much. I just want to thank Dr. Fernandez also and Dr. Legaspi for the opportunity to do this. It's a wonderful honor. Hospice chaplaincy is really a ministry that touches people exactly where they are. We are sometimes employed in the secular settings, and we serve people of all religious backgrounds and even those with none, providing hope and comfort and assistance during difficult times and bringing the ministry of presence to those we serve. As some may think, as some do about chaplains, we do not try to force our religious beliefs on those we care for. Our effectiveness is most evident when we leave our agendas at the door. First slide, please, Justin. Thank you. A hospice chaplain provides spiritual, emotional, and religious support to patients receiving end-of-life care, as well as their families and caregivers. The families are so important in this because after the patient has gone, the family is our main concern through bereavement and care. But our primary goal is to offer comfort, guidance, and a compassionate presence, regardless of the patient's religious beliefs or lack of. This is not a religious thing that we do. It's something that's just for caring for people. Next slide. Some of the key responsibilities for the chaplains are, first of all, spiritual support. We want to address the spiritual and existential concerns of patients who are facing death, helping them find peace, purpose, and closure. Some will equate spiritual support as something that is religious, and it really isn't. It encompasses all ways in which attention is paid to the spiritual dimensions of life. It is most commonly offered in one-on-one relationships. It's person-centered, one-on-one, makes no assumptions about personal convictions or life orientation. It offers a way for people to experience and make meaning of their hopes and fears. And I talk about that word fear because in my experience, the words such as dread, what happens now, where am I going, how this is going to happen, what happens now, and that's not just from the family, that's from the patients also who are able to speak. The spiritual care is provided to appropriately meet the individual's spiritual and their emotional needs. Next, emotional care, providing a listening ear and emotional support to patients and their loved ones. And I've added loved ones in this on all the presentations because the family is so important in all of this. They listen, they hear, they ask questions because their loved one is very close to leaving Earth. We do offer religious services because most of us are ministers of some type. We offer prayer, scripture readings, sacraments, and rituals as requested by the patient or the family. And I put in there as requested by because the family or the patient has to agree to taking the spiritual care when we do what is called our initial assessment. We do family support. I just came from a bereavement group I have on Thursdays, and a lady just lost her mom on Monday. Very emotional, very stressful at times. But the main thing that we want to try to do in our spiritual groups, our family groups, our bereavement groups, is to offer peace, offer supportive words, offer support, and just a handout to the folks who are going through this terrible time of their life. We help families cope with their grief. We offer counseling and guiding them through the bereavement process. Bereavement process takes as long as it takes. And that's a question that a lot of people ask me is, well, how long is this? How come I'm not out of it yet? Why should I? Shouldn't I be over this by now? That's not the case. I have people in my groups who have been 7 and 8 years in bereavement. So we don't push it. We just want to talk to the people, give them our best, pray for them, and help them out in any way we can. Our interdisciplinary teamwork is wonderful. We collaborate with our doctors, nurses, social workers, and caregivers, such as Wynette and her folks, to provide holistic care. We meet on every other week as far as the team is concerned and go through the patients one-on-one, and I'll talk a little bit about that later on. But we also do end-of-life planning, assisting patients in finding meaning in their final days and supporting them in conversations about legacy, forgiveness, and their last wishes. If the patient isn't able to talk or is unable to communicate in any form, we go through this with the families themselves because this is going to be their responsibility after they've lost their loved one. And it's going to be a hard thing because it's a complete surprise at times. We don't expect folks to be leaving us as soon as they do. So our work with the family begins when the patient comes on hospice. And we work with them as long as the patient is on hospice. Next slide, please. Thank you. We want to assure, and I talked about spiritual assessments before, the spiritual assessment of the patient and the family and the caregivers in hospice program, and we have to be appropriate to give them the services are rendered in a timely manner. Medicare gives us 5 days period to create all our initial assessments, whether it's clinical or spiritual or social. We try to get in. I, as a chaplain, will. I know the nurses have to get in right away. Clinical is important, so I usually wait until the 2nd or 3rd day. I will call the second day because I know the family's so very much involved with the nursing team at that time. And usually by the third or fourth day, I'll be in the home talking with the patient if possible, talking with the family if possible, and just advising them and giving them whatever help I can. We want to assure that the development of the individualized plan of care is completed, whether it's a spiritual plan of care, volunteer, and or bereavement. We complete plans of care as necessary in the patient's plan. I will do a spiritual care plan of care right away in the very first day. Our volunteers and our bereavement will be done at appropriate times. If the family requests or the patient requests a volunteer to come and visit, maybe just talk or read scripture or books or play music, whatever they might need, we'll offer that also. And then when the patient does pass, we create what's called a bereavement care plan. Usually that's done the first or second day after the patient has passed. And we do it by participating in our IDT meetings and through regular clinical record reviews. I mentioned that we meet every 2 weeks as an IDT team. We go through the patients and their condition, their ups and downs, what's going on with them, and also what's going on with the family, so that we can, if necessary, call the family. We assure them that we're with them and we're walking with them. And then we have the clinical nurses going through the condition of the patient, so that if a visit is necessary, just for comfort or whatever the case might be, we can schedule that at that time. And then I provide direct spiritual care to patients and their families and caregivers is as needed and through department oversight. And what that means is that we, as a team, have set up the number of visits we feel is necessary at the point for the patient spiritually. But if the nurses or the social worker asks a chaplain to go visit a patient for whatever reason, there might be some existential problem, health problem, we will, of course, go there and talk to them, affording them whatever comfort we can. We serve as a liaison and a support to community partners, volunteers, and chaplains and spiritual counselors. I'm in contact with many of the chaplains from other hospices to just offer support and help for them, just in talking and maybe in a group, just sitting around and talking about spiritual care and what we can do to better serve our patients. And then we ensure that the maintenance or records of volunteers, spiritual care, and bereavement services utilization and related activities for quality assurance, program development, and policies and procedures review and revision. Our QAPI, our Quality Assurance and Performance Improvement Group, has many audits that they do. I, for one, take care of some of the frequency audits and other audits that the QAPI team does, just to make sure that we're in compliance with Medicare and with the other groups that watch over us and we're responsible for. Very important to be able to communicate like that with all aspects of the hospice team itself and stay in contact with them, because communication is the best form of transparency. Next slide, please. We document services and ongoing communication with our community chaplains and spiritual counselors within the clinical record.
Ayan, yan na yun. Ayan, yan.
Usually we have a clinical record that we look at, and we review it for any issues that might be coming up with the patient or might have come up in the past with the patient. Our communication with our clinical staff is tremendous, I feel, because we talk every day. We send out notes and we send messages and we talk on the phone with any problem issues we might. Clinicians will call me and say, so and so is having some problems today. Can you go visit her or him? And if I can get it in, I will do it that day or as soon as possible afterwards. We document personnel oversight and ensure all pertinent forms and documents are submitted to the business managers for entry into the personnel files as necessary. Once in a while, there become issues with, differences of opinion in the family or with one of the members, and it's Once in a while, we have to get in and be counselors and facilitators for family members. I've had issues with family members arguing in front of the patient about who's going to get what when the patient passes. And that to me is a let's go outside moment and let's take care of it. And we have to document that, and we do religiously. We attend patient care conference and interdisciplinary group meetings as a member of the interdisciplinary group. I will go to patient care conferences with that maybe a family doctor has with the patient and the family, and just to sit in and listen to see what they're talking about and how I may be able to help the family in bringing peace and care to them. And then we provide consultation, education, and support to the interdisciplinary group on our volunteer, our spiritual care, and our bereavement services, including specific bereavement groups outside the home. Two examples of that is what we're doing today. I do teaching occasionally at Packram University for chaplains, especially hospice chaplains. But our bereavement groups, we have a bereavement group for each of our chaplains. No matter where they are in the islands, we have a bereavement group within a short driving distance. We usually have one to two a month. I have one every week because of the size of the team that I have and the patients that I have. So it keeps me on the ball, but it keeps me involved with the families of the patients who have recently passed away, recently left us, just to see how the family is doing and to talk to them and bring other members of the family into the group and let them share their pain and their suffering that they're going through. Grief and bereavement is something that doesn't leave us. It's always with us. It just diminishes in time. And this is one of the things we try to share with the members of the bereavement group. Next slide, please, Justin. The spiritual group, spiritual care providers, such as chaplains, will recruit and hire and orient community chaplains and spiritual counselors, volunteers, and bereavement coordinators to adequately meet patient and family caregiver needs. What we try to do is have enough chaplains on call or chaplains on team to make sure that none of our family members and none of our patients go without. It doesn't matter this is and I've always said this, chaplaincy and ministry is not a job. It's a ministry and a calling that we all usually love, and we all try to take as much time as possible to share our love for people with the families, and especially in hospice care. We will provide funeral and memorial services for patients as needed and or requested. The family must request that we do a family service. We cannot solicit family memorials or anything of that such with the family just because we know them. They usually will ask, if we do memorials and things like that. And I will always say, of course, for you folks, I will do it. We plan periodic support groups and memorial services to meet the needs of personnel, volunteers, and community, clergy, spiritual counselors working with the hospice team. As I said earlier, I meet with many of the pastors and many of the chaplains on Oahu and on Maui especially too, just to sit with them, counsel and talk, share ideas, share our love for each other, share our love for people, and in my case, share my love for the Lord with folks that also have that same needs. Spiritual care is provided appropriately. It's supposed to meet the individual emotional needs. It may include presence of conversations and ritual ceremonies and sharing of sacred text and resources. It's not proselytizing my beliefs, but just looking at the personnel and the real world need and emotions of patients, families, and volunteers and personnel, other members of our interdisciplinary team. I typically sit with some of the folks on our team and other members of Islands Hospice and talk with them about how things are going, if they need any help, if they need any prayer, if they need any advice or just want to share and talk to me about things that are going on in their, not only their professional life, but also in their personal life. It seems to be just a soothing thing and something to be able to be transparent about and say, you know what, I'm really struggling with this. And the pastor in me loves doing that, loves sitting with people and sharing, not telling them what to do, but just offering advice and offering a chance to just talk and get it over with, get it out. Next slide, please. Understanding the role of hospice care and what a chaplain really does is really essential for anyone pursuing a career in healthcare or related fields. In hospitals, you'll find many have chaplains. In hospice care, of course, we have chaplains. So the holistic approach of hospice, emphasizing both physical and the spiritual well-being, it highlights the importance of compassionate care in the face of life's most challenging moments. Everyone is going to come to their end of life someday, and I find a lot of times that patients, if they're aware or able to tell me, have that little hinge of doubt once in a while. Families, of course, will say, "What's going to happen to mom or dad or grandpa or grandma?" And it's my opportunity to share with them that here's what happens, and here's the path that they'll take, and here's the opportunity for you to pray for them and let them know how much you care about them. And I always have family members share with the patient before they pass, sometime before they go home, to let the patient know how much that patient cares or meant to them and what the patient had done for that person in their life, just to give the patient a sense of ease and peace and knowing that something is accomplished and loved and recognized in their life. And by recognizing the responsibilities of a chaplain, we can appreciate the profound impact of spiritual support on patients and their families during this critical time. I've found in my years as a pastor and a chaplain that the best thing you can do is offer an ear, listen, and not correct or not challenge or anything like that. Just listen and let the person talk about it. The greatest gift in my calling is talking with patients and their families and hearing that the service I provide to them has made a difference in their personal situation. I can't tell you the amount of times that I've sat with people after the patient has passed, maybe after the memorial or sometime after that, the family's gotten together and invited me over, and they've shared their family life with me and just said what a pleasant surprise the final days of their loved one had, and what a wonderful thing it was that somebody loved them enough. A team of hospital and hospice professionals came and took the time to visit with them and be with them and share their love with them. So I love this work. This is as I said, a moment for me to just share with you my love for the patients and families that we have, but just the compassionate care that we have and that we can share with many people. And with that, I would like to maybe open it up to some questions or concerns or anything you might want to have.
Thank you, Chaplain. That was very moving presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Rita Bell.
We understand this is not easy. You are really helping families through their most difficult times. You're helping patients when they are the sickest, when they are the lowest. And God bless you for your big heart and wonderful service to our community and all that you did on Maui as well. Thank you, Chaplain Patrick.
It's my pleasure and my honor, Doctor, and it's an honor to be able to work with you, dear.
So let's see what questions we have from our care home operators and foster home operators. Juanette will facilitate our discussion now.
Okay, a question that they have is, what do individuals who are actively dying see? Black, white lights, something else?
I have had one of each many times. Many times I will come into a patient's bedroom, and I had it a couple of times where I went to sit by the patient's bed, and he or she said, "Oh no, don't sit there because my husband or my wife is sitting there." And they do see spirits. There is nothing wrong with that. Whatever the patient sees is true to that person, and whatever the patient believes is true to that person. So, just listening to the patient if we can, advising the families. This may happen. They may see something like this. They may see birds or butterflies outside their window, and they're saying, "That's my mom," or "That's who might have passed on before." It's in my belief as a Christian, God has a way of letting folks know that He's going to be taking them home soon, and it's not something that they should be worried about. Some do, and it's my responsibility to hold hands and sit with that patient and just reassure them. Not so much reading from the Bible or anything like that, but just say, "We're here for you, and we will always love you."
Thank you, Chaplain. So I have a question for you, actually, Dr. Fernandez. Do you consider that hallucinations when they're seeing things that are really not there? Is that considered a hallucination?
It depends on what things they are seeing. Now, often when they see like their mother, their father, like their family members, we think of that as a hallucination. Sometimes you do think that, maybe they feel the end is coming. They start talking to old family members, and there's so much we do not know. However, what I would consider a hallucination is like people thinking there's parasites on their skin, like people are on drugs, they keep scratching their skin, or we may have schizophrenic patients who are talking or think the TV is talking to them, or somebody's putting things in their brain. So those are the kind of auditory hallucinations or delusions or the paranoia that may also happen at the end of life. But seeing family members who have passed away, I would not consider that a visual hallucination. Chaplain, maybe you can share your thoughts too about hallucinations at the end of life.
Yeah, thank you. It's just my belief that what the patient sees is their belief, and that's their perception of what is true. And it's always been my, I guess, in my program or in my speech to the patient, is that, "Oh, who is that?" And to try to talk to them. "Oh, that's my auntie," and "Oh, what does auntie look like?" Just so it gives the patient that feeling that they're not going crazy, or that they're not hallucinating. That even though it may be, the responsibility of the chaplain is to offer as much peace through kind words and agreement to the patient in their last moments.
Juanette, I want to share a little. Thank you, Chaplain. Thank you for your perspective. Mm-hmm. Beautiful what you said to get more explanation. And Juanette, I want to share with everyone the story of my mother. I have told many people my mother had dementia, and I visited India in last February, and I also visited in November. And my mother worked for the railways in India. She was 35 years, one employer. She worked for the loyal lady, worked for the railroads. So I took her on this very fancy trip on the train in India in November. Now, I want you to know my mother passed away this January. And what was interesting about the November train trip was she started talking in her native language. So not English. She started talking in Konkani. Konkani is a language from a particular part of India. So very often we're sitting at dinner and suddenly she's talking to me in this language, which I could understand. I would reply in English. And then the second thing that now when I look back was my mother could see her mother. Okay, so my mother was seeing my grandma. So we would go shopping and I would buy these lovely saris or whatever we did shopping. And I would tell my mom, So which ones you want and which ones, like we're dividing the stuff. And then saying, well, she choose the best. And then she says, I want to give this to my mother. I didn't buy her anything. So what I said, good idea. So I could, my mother was seeing her mother and also talking in this native language. And then my mother passed away 2 months later. So I want to share that with everyone.
That's a touching story, Doctor.
Well, I'm a firm believer in that the people that are around you, when you're passing are, your loved ones and you want to meet again. So I definitely feel that they're coming to guide you in the direction that is positive. But someone did make a comment in the chat box that the reason for seeing maybe white lights or black lights or anything is possibly because of the comfort medications that are administered, such as the morphine or the lorazepam, that may cause confusion, vivid dreams, and hallucinations. Thank you, Philip, for sharing.
May I also throw out there, I'm a social worker, and I've worked in palliative care and end-of-life care and nursing homes and care homes. And really, at this point in time, CMS still allows for what's considered culturally appropriate responses and interventions. And honestly, like, people seeing things has different meaning in different cultures. So is it really hallucination depending on what culture?
Would you like to elaborate on that? Things that you've seen out there in the community with the different cultures?
Well, I think even here on the mainland, right, the belief in sort of things that you and I don't visually perceive, like as a quote unquote typical person, right? There might be spirits, people are very in tune with other things, and those kinds of things where maybe might feel frightening to some of us as professionals, might be really relevant in that person's either spiritual background, religious background, their ethnic background. And so it's not on us to kind of argue with whether or not something is real or not. It's as I think the chaplain was kind of saying in a different way, it's whether or not it's real to them. That's the most important thing. And until CMS sort of changes their stance, and hopefully they don't, but like, we don't know, until they change their stance on sort of culturally relevant interventions, I think that there's an element of being like, it almost doesn't matter what Western medicine says of like the idea of hallucination, unless it's something that really impairs like the skin picking, or, like if they're seeing bugs on the floor and there's no bugs. But if they're seeing spirits, or they're seeing things that you and I don't see, like it's, if they're seeing a baby that maybe they had, that passed away as a baby and now they're there on their deathbed, like, is that really important for us to argue whether or not it's real or not? I don't think so.
I think that's a very good point, because many times our responsibility is to make the patient as comfortable as possible. And by agreeing with them or by reaffirming, oh yes, that's fine, we're here for you. What do you see? Who do you see? Let them talk about it. Again, transparency to the patient is what is real to them. And if they see something, it's their perception, and who are we to argue with it?
Absolutely. So Lenny has shared also, she said she worked in hospice for 10 years, and she said all her patients were seeing their families who passed away before they died. Yeah. So I have first account. Yeah, I've accounted that also. Yeah. Also, Renata says, asked the question, have there ever been MRIs done during the active state of death or dying?
That's above my pay rank.
Dr. Fernandez?
There you go, Doc.
I don't know of studies who have looked at people in active dying, because MRI is very difficult to be still, even for a person, normal person. An MRI machine, and oh my God, you think you're in some coffin.
Right.
claustrophobic even for just a young, healthy, normal adult to handle that. So I don't think, the feasibility, when you look at what would be the feasibility of doing such a study, it would be very difficult to, the methodology and to conduct something like this in the active stages of dying.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else out there want to ask any questions? You don't necessarily have to put it into the chat. You can go ahead and just unmute yourself and ask a question. I'm sure Chaplain Rooney would love to answer any questions you folks have.
Sure. Anytime.
Or if you have a medical question, Dr. Fernandez is always willing to go ahead and give her logical explanations.
Chaplain Patrick, I have a question. How do you handle spiritual distress? First is how to recognize it, because sometimes it's not easy to recognize is a person having some spiritual distress or existential suffering. How do you first recognize it, and then what is your approach in dealing and helping people to come to peace with that?
It's a great question. It is spiritual stress is manifested many times just in the patient's questions, if they can speak, attitude, the family. They'll ask questions about, mom wakes up in the middle of the night and she's screaming, and we try to calm her down, and she's telling us things that don't make sense. And the things that I found over the years is that the body manifests its own problems, I believe, and you're the doctor, so you can confirm this or not. But and the body connected to the brain, and the brain is always going a mile a minute for many people, and much of our distress comes from that. We think a lot of things that aren't really, I don't want to say true, but aren't really happening. I look at words like dread. What's going to happen to mom? What's going to happen to me? I don't know if I'm going to heaven or not. What's going to happen when I pass away? That's when spiritual stress comes in. And that's where the words that the chaplain can offer about, there's so many people who love you and so many people who want to take care of you, trying to bring them back into the moment and not worry about what's going to happen in the future.
Thank you, Chaplain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chaplain Rooney. That was a good explanation. I know all of us, because we're in the industry and we do have people passing, I don't want to say quite often, but that's the reality of it because we are in this industry. But if any of you folks want to share maybe stories that were unusual during a passing of one of your residents. I know sometimes, it happens and it's like, wow, what's going on? Maybe you want to just share, and maybe Dr. Fernandez or Chaplain Rooney can go ahead and explain why it happened.
I have a question while everyone prepares their questions. What can we do if we can't access a chaplain and our loved ones or the person we're caring for is passing? How can we provide sort of the same service or similar service that you do, or try to comfort them spiritually?
Great question. I get that a lot. One of the things we talk about in our initial assessment with the family and or the patient is there a church you attend, or is there a temple you attend, or is there someone that we can have come visit you that you are familiar with? Maybe you're a member of that synagogue or temple. And if there is nothing, then typically the hospice chaplain will always be available, regardless of whether they decline or accept spiritual care services. At least in my case, I get calls from families who decline in the beginning, and a month or two later or a week or two later, they're calling me saying, can you come and visit Dad because he's having some problems, and it just may be not sleeping at night. And you'd be surprised how many times just someone being there, holding their hand, whether they're awake or not. I've had patients who are not conscious but squeezing my hand, because the last thing to go, and doctor, you can correct me on this wrong if I'm wrong, but the last sense to go is the hearing. And so people can hear words of comfort. They can also hear words of arguments. So you have to be very careful with that. Words of love, even, scriptural things. I read many times from the Torah for folks who are Jewish, and other, other words, the Quran, and of course from the Bible. It's a matter of keeping up with my education, but the hospice chaplain should always be available if there's not a family clergy that would come and visit, and or can come when the patient is passing.
So we do have two questions and comments. Thank you, Chaplain Rooney. It says, may I ask what the difference between palliative care is to hospice care? I think maybe Dr. Fernandez.
I think Dr. Fernandez can speak on that.
Hospice care is at the very end of a person's life. It is considered the best gold standard end of life care. According to Medicare rules, person needs to have 6 months or less to live. So it is very much at the end. Now, palliative care, on the other hand, is going upstream. It's much earlier when someone is diagnosed with a serious illness. They could be diagnosed with cancer, with Parkinson's, with liver failure, maybe they're on a transplant list. Palliative care is earlier, and it's offering symptom management. Their biggest focus is symptom, how to control the pain, nausea, vomiting, making somebody comfortable. Like people who take cancer treatment, the chemo and the radiation, those are very hard, the life-sustaining treatments. But having palliative care makes it more likely that you will be successful, that you will be able to handle those treatments because you got a team that is going to help with the symptom management. So the palliative care team often has the same members as the hospice team. They have nurse, social worker, doctor, chaplain, social work. All of them come to help the person, and most of palliative care is provided at home. So just think of it as earlier and upstream care for people with serious illness and advanced illness.
Thank you, Dr. Fernandez. Appreciate the information as always. Someone else also said that you can always call your local pastor or priest if the chaplain is not available. But from my experience, I've never had a problem contacting a chaplain with any of the hospice agencies that I've dealt with. They're always very easily accessible and willing to come any hour of the day.
Yes, that's in our case at Islands, we as chaplains are responsible for our patients Monday through Thursday, and then we have someone on call Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But if we are notified, regardless of whether we're on call or not, I'm always notified of patients who are on my responsibility. If there's problems, the nurses are really good about calling and letting us know. And that's where the interdisciplinary team communication comes in. So we're always aware. I just wanted to make a point on the local pastor or the local priest. In many areas, you can call them, but it's not known if they're going to come and visit or not. It's I'm not sure why, the reason they would, but we, when we're in hospice, we just take on that responsibility of, you know what, the patient needs us, and we'll be there.
Another comment that we have here is a question, actually. is for individuals undergoing capital punishment and the death penalty. Are they allowed to have a chaplain present? And if so, what is the role of the chaplain?
Typically, each prison will have a chaplain on staff, and they are allowed to be there with the patient, with the prisoner, up until the time of the prisoner's passing. The chaplain, he or she, would be outside in the watch room, they call it. So they can have someone there, and many of them do.
And we can also have hospice provided in prison. So I want you to know that people in prison still have a right to medical care, and hospice is considered the best medical care at the end of life. So yes, that is prison ministry. There is a strong prison ministry, and they have a right to, especially for them to make peace and come to reconciliation and all of the things that they are dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I have a question or a comment also. So I do have people, I let people pass. I know all care homes don't always accept hospice, and they don't always want people to die in their homes. But I think that it's an honor for a person to pass in my home after I've taken care of them for many years, or even just come in for a short period of time. They get onto hospice and I admit them on hospice because it's my privilege to take care of them, especially at the end. But I guess the comment I was going to make is I've had a time that I just sit and I hold their hand and I tell them that, everything is going to be okay. Everybody in your family, they want to hear or be assured that their family members that are still alive, that are counting on them, are going to be okay. And I think I was taught that many moons ago from a hospice. I don't know if it was, I guess it was a chaplain, but I don't know if it was a priest, a personal priest, or a chaplain, just to remind them that everybody that's still around that loves them and cares for them, it's okay for them to go because everybody else is going to be okay. And they need to hear that. But go ahead, chaplain.
Well, the only thing I was going to say, I mentioned earlier that one of the things that we do is to make sure that all the family members, regardless of where they are, have had an opportunity to speak to or whisper to or be there in person to the patient, and exactly what you said, Wynette, is we love you. We know it's going to be hard, but we'll be okay. And it's all right to go home, or it's all right to go. That gives especially if it's a mother or a father or a grandmother or grandfather, they're typically the legacy of the family. And they want to know that the family is going to be okay, just as you said.
A lot of local families have a really hard time signing on to hospice. And I think that's just culture. So I think people need to be more educated on the reason and the benefits of having hospice care. So I advocate constantly for hospice.
Just a quick note, when I was over on Maui after the fires, I spoke to a family, and their grandmother was going to go. They thought she would be on hospice, and I talked to them and they said, "Well, what we feel is we can take better care of our loved ones, and that may be from a heart reference, but from medical and even the care itself." A trained team of medical experts and a spiritual care and a social worker can always they may not have the love to love with the patient, but they've got the ability, the practice to make sure that comfort is given to the patient and the family.
I look at hospice as an added benefit. Mm-hmm. Basically, you're having another set of eyes come in, a supportive hand, a supportive shoulder, especially for us caregivers. Having that additional support system of hospice is always beneficial. So I don't see why, you wouldn't talk to your families and support the factor of bringing hospice in.
I totally agree.
We have another comment. It says, Kauai hospice team, whenever she called them, they responded right away. Thanks, Rosalia. Another one. Yeah, always hospice is extremely supportive, always can be counted on. Thank you for the comments.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyway, we do want to say thank you very much, Chaplain Rooney. We've got a lot of information from you today. We can appreciate your wealth of knowledge. Dr. Fernandez, do you have anything in addition